You can actually learn some parts of pronunciation using Duolingo, the free language app, and I want to show you how. Hey guys, this is Geoff with Fluent American. Now, I know Duolingo often gets attacked. It's a free app, it can only do so much, you're not necessarily getting feedback from native speakers, but there are still ways that you can make this a useful tool, even for things like pronunciation. So we're going to go over some quick things that I learned when taking a look at different languages on Duolingo. All the techniques that we talk about today, these are things that you can apply to any class. Like if you're taking a language learning class, I encourage you to do a lot of the same things we're doing here. For instance, like repetition, repeating what you hear, recording yourself, things like that. All right, let's take a look. The very first thing I want to show you guys is what I'm noticing about placement with different language groups. So for instance, you can see here I've got Brazilian Portuguese. In fact, I was on a video recently where I was practicing Portuguese, speaking Portuguese pronunciation for the first time really in my life. Mão, pão, bicicleta. And I got some nice feedback, so you can check out that video here. Yeah, I think that went horribly. But one of the things that we talked about in that video was that placement for Portuguese, to me, felt like it was really coming from like way up here, as opposed to American English where the placement comes right here. And again, if you're not familiar with placement, check out these videos. So we're just going to kind of look at the website to see how you can detect placement for different languages.
Eu sou menino.
Eu sou. Notice that I'm doing lots of repetition, so I go over a word, I hear how they play it, and then I also can repeat it multiple times myself. And this is just helpful for me to kind of start getting an idea of where I'm projecting the sound from. So to recap our first point here, with Duolingo, I think it's helpful if you want to make it more of a pronunciation application in addition to language learning, then I think you want to be paying attention to placement. Try practicing the sounds, repeat what you hear, and locate in your mouth and in your throat where you think the sound is projecting from. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just want to play around with starting to move around that placement, because the reality is, if you haven't studied other languages before, it may be a new experience for you just trying to move the placement in different places. So experiment. So for instance, example for this word here, so. What I'm hearing is like really top of the throat, back of the mouth. That's where I'm feeling this the most. And again, it could be completely wrong, but the key is just kind of practicing. And what you can do too is record yourself. So. I really encourage you when you're starting to learn a language, doing these types of repetition exercises where again, you record yourself and then play back what you hear and compare it to the original. It's not going to be perfect, especially if you don't have a teacher around to offer suggestions or offer their feedback. However, you can still use tools like Duolingo on your own to get some practice in. One thing you'll notice if you're trying to make Duolingo into a pronunciation application, in addition to just language learning, is that it's going to take longer because it's going to require more work from you. It requires lots of repetition. I recommend doing things like when you hear a word, repeat it 3 times, 4 times, and then listen again, and then repeat another 3 times or 4 times. In this way though, you do this for your daily streaks or whatever your goal is with Duolingo, you're going to get even more speaking practice in and a little bit more comfortable with the pronunciation of words. Recap, the goal is not to rush through Duolingo. Take it slowly and really focus on what you're doing. Let's take a look at some other language groups to give some examples too. So you can see here I have selected Mandarin. Now I did study Mandarin a little bit before the birth of my son. For those of you with kids, I'm sure you understand what it's like to try learning languages. When you have a kid,
在 见 在
and again, what I'm hearing here for the placement for Mandarin, again, top of the throat, back of the mouth, it feels maybe a little bit higher than Portuguese. Like Portuguese, I felt was like almost like down here. This is what I'm hearing, almost a little bit higher.
再见
One of the things that we've mentioned too in the past is that Mandarin Chinese has a few more N sounds than in English. Remember, in English, there's really only one N sound. We make contact with the front of your tongue, the top of your mouth. Whereas in Mandarin Chinese, what often happens when an N appears at the end of a word, oftentimes the back of the tongue rises and the front of the tongue goes down. So for instance, instead of saying like jian, you get more jian.
你好
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 你好 Ni hao, hao. I've already mentioned that I feel like my placement for Mandarin, for at least what I'm getting right now, is that it's, again, towards the back of my mouth, but top of my throat. And again, like I said before, a little higher than Brazilian Portuguese. And even so much that it almost feels like I'm kind of blocking air a little bit, again, towards the back of my mouth, like how, how, how. Versus if I were trying to say that like in American English, it'd be like how. So much air, right? You can really hear the difference there. But I'm getting more how.
你好
How versus how. That would probably be the closest sound in American English to that, right? How versus how. Hey guys, if you are learning something new in this video, do me a favor, press like and comment one new thing that you learned today. Naturally, when you first start a language in Duolingo, you're going to find that you're just working with individual words and things like that. But then as you get farther along, you'll get some practice with sentences as well. I encourage you with the sentences to try to, again, repeat these as often as you can.
Ciao, come stai?
Ciao, come stai? Ciao, come stai?
Ciao, come stai?
Stai. For instance, I'm noticing there that it gets a little bit tenser towards the end for stai. Stai. Come stai? Other differences that you want to be paying attention to are noticing if the language is syllable timed or
stress timed.
giornale
giornale.
Abbiamo.
caramelle
Caramelle. For instance, we're working with Italian now. Italian is a syllable timed language. So this is going to affect your rhythm because every single syllable in the word is going to be pronounced for about the same length of time. It will still have emphasis, but in terms of length, you want to make sure that it stays a lot more equal than what you find in English.
Panino.
Panino. Panino. You know, a lot of these words, if you were pronouncing them in American English, it would be more like panino or something like that, right? Where it's like that first syllable is really fast and that second syllable is held longer. Panino, panino versus panino, panino. You're giving longer weight to each syllable. One of the terms we mentioned a lot today is placement. And if you still don't know what that is, definitely check out this video.